Adam, how good was
4,
that?
3, 2, 1. Welcome to Mind Over Matters, the live stream where your mind actually matters. My name is Syme, and as usual, my partners in crime, Tak, Adam, and Samad, are here with us today. Every week, the four of us discuss and debate the hottest topics as requested by our viewers and our listeners. We'll be live monitoring the chat and comments on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and Instagram, so please send in your questions or simply tell us what matters are on your mind. Before we get into the topics for this evening, though, I want to pass the mic to Samad, who wants to share a few words with our viewers. So over to you, Samad.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, thanks to everyone for showing the support over the past, I would say, 9 weeks now. Last week we couldn't do our show, but thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh, getting some
Yeah.
getting
Oh,
some
getting
We're
some
getting some
feedback.
feedback. We're getting some
yeah,
feedback.
classic. You know, as I
Classic,
always say,
yeah.
it's not a
ping
show
pong.
without at least some technical
There
difficulty.
has to be something that happens.
But
And
yeah,
I think,
as you were saying, someone.
yeah, as I was saying, it's been a good, 9 week run so far, and I can definitely say, just by looking at the feedback that we've received, the support and the love that we've received, um, the time that we've done it for, it's the shorter part of our journey, and what we're looking at is the long road ahead, and we're quite excited because of the what we've experienced as the four of us, and including the audience. We really appreciate all the suggestions that we get. Doesn't always have to be through the Mind Over Matters way, even though we do prefer going about it that way. But our friends talking about it, and then we always end up discussing those things amongst ourselves to decide whether or not we're going to talk about it. But we do appreciate it. Thank you for for being with us through our journey, and we would like to.
And thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties.
Almost every show.
It's almost going to be a running meme now. So we'll try to tackle that part of technical difficulties.
No, we can't get rid of it.
We can't get rid of it.
It's a
Staple
special
that segment.
Staple.
Yeah, there's always something. So we did take that week off to sort of recollect our ideas and in the direction that we want to take this show in, and we also needed some time off to just relax and I guess take a breather. So welcome to the show. I really hope you guys enjoy today's podcast. And
Also, thank you for the 50 subscribers.
we're halfway to the 100 mark, and we need your
We
need your
need
help
we're
with
half
this.
century.
my
We're
cat.
half
We need
century.
to dox my
Century.
cat. All right.
Yeah.
Dox my cat at 100 subs. It's happening. She can't keep getting away with this. All right. We need those 100 subs. And so, if you do like the content that we produce, bing bong bang, like, subscribe, bell icon, all that kind of stuff. It does really help us on the YouTube algorithm.
Definitely, and we're not going to be stingy when it comes to these things. So we are going to do giveaways. We're talking about merch. I think we've already talked about merch on
Yep.
Mind Under Matters with gifts by FH. We're trying to work out a collaboration. So of course, the more traffic we see on this page, the more feedback we get. It gives us more of an incentive to go ahead with these
Ideas.
these giveaways, these ideas. So show that love, and I'm pretty sure you all will be rewarded. Just not just through the content that we make, but you'll have the merch, you'll have the giveaways. So
And you get to
watch
interact
the
with
space.
us.
Yeah, you definitely get to interact with us.
So let's move over to our topics for the evening. So Adam, what have we got for our audience today?
So one of the topics that people want us to talk about, and also that's been in the public zeitgeist for a while, is the recent verdict regarding the shooting of Breonna Taylor, who was a 26-year-old EMT who was shot in her apartment by police during a drug raid. Recently, the verdict came out, and that has obviously caused a little bit of a hubbub around the world in regards to whether it's something that's whether the result has been served justice, right? Because from my understanding, her shooting happened back in May 2020,
March.
right?
Was
So
it?
Was it March or was it May?
March. Yeah.
March.
March.
Okay,
March.
so March 2020. And subsequently, we got the final verdict. The police had a no-knock warrant for her apartment because her ex-boyfriend was a drug dealer. No-knock warrants are usually granted in situations where I believe usually in things like drug raids, because essentially what tends to happen is when police
Someone
announce
tipped them off.
themselves.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Someone would like
Get
tip
away.
them off.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, or like for example, like try and get rid of them, like flush it down the toilet, right? Like that
Yeah.
would
Yep,
be
yep,
an
yep.
example during like things like drug raids. Like the moment the police try and announce themselves, they're already trying to get rid of whatever they have. So because they were they at her Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend's house, they weren't able to find any drugs or whatever. They got a warrant for her apartment because they thought maybe whatever evidence they had that may have been an area for them to investigate. And that subsequently led to the situation that happened. And as of I think when was the actual verdict given? It was
It's been less than a
23rd.
week. I
Very
think it's been about
recently,
Yeah.
5 or
Few
6 days
ago.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And according to the AG, no, I think only Detective Brett Hankerson was given 3 counts of wanton endangerment. So, wanton endangerment is putting others in unnecessary harm. So when he fired his weapon, I think there was like the potential of him harming people in the apartments. I think above and to the side.
Yeah,
One of the
his weapon. The bullets from his weapon were found in a neighbor's apartment,
Yeah.
and so that's why they were able to charge him with
Because I think
wanton endangerment.
9mm rounds.
I don't know
Which is a
about
different matter, which I think we want to get to.
which we will get to, but I don't know whether they're
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're 9mm, but yeah, we will get into it. But yeah, so he was charged with wanton endangerment, while the other 2 officers were not charged with anything because, according to the grand jury, and I'll just quote them here, the grand jury believed homicide charges are not applicable because the investigation showed that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in returning fire after being fired upon by Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker being Breonna Taylor's then boyfriend at the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was essentially Taylor Boto, who said they didn't know police was at the door. That was the verdict that the grand jury had given.
Yeah, and I find that there's some inconsistencies with the version between what we're hearing from the attorney representing Breonna Taylor and her current or then boyfriend, and the version that we're hearing from the AG. And so one of the findings or one of the claims that the AG made was revealed in the statement that he made was that there was a witness who heard the police announce themselves, so knock on the door and announce themselves. And so what the attorney representing Breonna Taylor claimed that there were 12 other witnesses or people who were interviewed that lived in that apartment complex that claimed they didn't hear the police announce themselves and didn't hear the police knock on the door. Now, obviously, and I think you and I had a discussion about this.
Well, I need to make one addendum to your statement, at least according to anonymous sources from CNN back in July 23rd. Essentially, the witness had allegedly come out from his apartment and had asked the police what was going on. So it wasn't a witness who heard it. It was someone who heard it and also saw the police being present. So that's the only
allegedly. But and that was a report from July, and the AG in his announcement or statement didn't elaborate further about that particular witness. Mm-hmm. And so what I mean, the CNN may have had a leak or a leaker that may have passed that information on, and it's quite possibly accurate.
Well, that's the thing that's crazy because this report came out back in July, and I hadn't heard about it until people were bringing it up because they're like, oh, well, this is actually corresponds with what the AG actually revealed at the press briefing whatever, that there was a witness and so on and so forth. So yeah, so they haven't elaborated, but I'm just going off what they released there. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the anger and the frustration by many Americans who have been kind of showing their support to Breonna and her family is the frustration that that officers had barged into her apartment while she was asleep. Now, obviously, we now know that she wasn't asleep. She was about to watch a movie with her boyfriend, but they, in the middle of the night, barging in, and I'm explaining one side of the story, and I'll kind of get into the other side, but barging in and then firing 32 rounds, and that's a fact according to the ballistics report. 32 rounds were fired, I think, between the three officers, one officer firing 6 rounds, another 10, another 14 rounds. There may have been a few more as well. So, I think a total of over a dozen bullet shots to Breonna Taylor. Now, she, in all likelihood, and again, I don't know more information about this yet, but she was not asleep. She was awake. And the claim from the Breonna Taylor estate or her family is that the officers didn't announce themselves, and Breonna's boyfriend, there was a knock on the door, but the police didn't announce themselves, and it was the middle of the night, so I think at the time it may have been past midnight, from the reports that we're hearing, and so he suspected it may have been attackers or burglars, so he fired off a warning round. That warning round obviously startled the officers, and that's when the cross-firing began, or at least the officers fired 32 rounds into the apartment, of which I think 12 bullets directly hit Breonna Taylor. I don't know. I'm not sure if you guys are aware if any of those bullets hit her boyfriend.
I don't think he was injured, but I don't want to. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, because he was subsequently arrested. So I don't think that would have been something that you could easily do if he was injured. But don't quote me on it. Don't quote me on it.
And originally he was charged. The boyfriend was charged with attempted murder. And subsequently the police dropped that charge. But again, they could bring that charge back if they want at a later date. So that he hasn't been necessarily completely exonerated of that charge. The Attorney General or the department can bring that charge back up. But going back to the kind of the anger and the frustration side of things, is what we now know is that there's conflicting versions coming from the police and Breonna Taylor's estate. The police arguing that a shot was fired in the direction of the police. The claim from the boyfriend is that no, that was a warning shot, not at the direction of the police. What we know is one of the police officers was shot with a 9mm round. But what we've now recently, I think in the last 24 hours, that's been released, is that the ballistics report shows. They found that one of the officers also possessed a 9mm weapon.
So that was Officer Hankinson. So he was the one who was charged with wanton endangerment, right? So the thing with that is that the initial. So this is based on the initial ballistics report, right? So the initial ballistics report was unable to conclude. Was neither able to identify or eliminate that the weapon that was fired came from Walker, right? So Walker, again, being Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. So that's based off the initial ballistics report. It doesn't mean that the final ballistics report concluded that it didn't come from him, or that the FBI's ballistics report, whether that also concluded it did or not. Again, that information might be coming out within the next couple of months or weeks or so. But yeah, so Hankerson did have a 9mm gun in his possession. Sorry, that was registered to him, but whether or not
He had
they
that in his
used
possession
one,
at the time.
and whether it was used, right? And I think
Absolutely.
because the other two officers had 40 calibers. I think that's what it is. Again,
Yeah, it's a 40 caliber weapon. Yep.
yeah. See, we're not gun experts here, so I don't know, like 0.4 9mm, mate. Millimeters, mate. I'm surprised Americans use millimeters. Anyways, yeah. So that was
The only time.
the only time when it comes to guns, right? But yeah, like so they had 40 calibers, and so I think essentially it was assumed that the bullet that came and hit one of the other officers came from the boyfriend's weapon, right? And I think because he probably had a 9mm gun or weapon that discharged, because I think it's like one of the most common kinds of ammunition available in the United States. But yeah, and so yeah, like it's kind of crazy because it does open up for the potential of, well, I mean, did what is it, Hankerson have a 9mm, or did he, or like was it, the hottest take is that he shot like the officer right
And then,
next to him, right?
or it's a conspiracy, and he shot himself so that.
Yeah, or something, right? Like that. Like I'm open up. I'm like it is interesting that it hadn't been addressed, but I think maybe part of the reason might be because like they might not have had the weapon, like you said, Simon. Like he didn't have the 9mm with him, but like, at the same time, there's like, oh, he was like at the scene when he shouldn't have been, also, or some other kind of stuff.
What's interesting is that neither Breonna Taylor nor her boyfriend at the time that was inside the house with her had any drug offences. Neither of them had any drug offences, and the only reason police got a no-knock warrant for her home is because her ex-boyfriend 2 years passed. So she'd broken up with this boyfriend 2 years ago. That boyfriend was a known to the police and did have drug charges in the past. And on that day, earlier in the day that Breonna Taylor was killed, on the exact same day, that boyfriend was also picked up in a separate raid. So the question arises: what if the boyfriend was picked up and at a separate race, at a separate raid in a separate location? What were the police doing at Breonna Taylor's? Why did they need the no knock warrant? What were they doing there? And given that neither Breonna nor her boyfriend at the time had any drug charges or were linked to drugs in any way.
So oh yeah, no, sorry,
I just wanted to ask a question. So, in terms of, what were the grounds besides them trying to look for evidence to frame the ex-boyfriend? Did they have any substantial evidence, or
I'm not saying that they were there to frame.
Yeah. But no, I understand what someone's saying. Yeah. Like what evidence are they using to try and
So why was what I'm trying to say? Why was the no-knock search warrant provided to the police? Like on what findings? You got to have something to kind of.
Yeah, it was because of it was the link between Breonna Taylor. So I've actually got the no-knock search warrant downloaded.
Right.
So I've had a look through that.
Is it due to it being known associations?
Known associations.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and I think for drug cases, the bar for it is significantly lower than, let's say, for other cases. Again, I'm not actually too sure what other situations.
Well, you're right. Actually, on average, it's between 12 and 13 minutes from the time the police officers request a no-knock warrant from a judge. There's on average it takes about 13 minutes to approve that no-knock warrant.
Okay. And are the majority used for drug-related offences? Do you know?
Yeah, drug. And the reason it's a no-knock warrant is because it's the police fear that, especially with drug-related crime, that they try and quickly get rid of the evidence the moment the police announce themselves. So they'll flush the evidence down the toilet, and typically they have cameras that are facing onto the street or into their front front yard so that they can see the cops coming as well.
Yeah, the moment they arrive, yeah. You see,
That's right.
and so this is the thing, right? So from my understanding, like the boyfriend's account of what happened during the raid was they were knocking, right? So already
that they did not knock.
that they
yes.
did knock, but they didn't announce. So already that's already kind of going against the
whole idea of
a
the no knock. No knock.
the no knock, right? So
Yeah.
it would
Right.
so isn't it confirmed
Bust
that
into
they
the-
at least
bust into
didn't
the
execute the no knock warrant as a no knock then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if the claim of the police is that they knocked, which is corroborated by another witness as well as the actual victim, and when I say the victim's boyfriend, then we know that to be almost an absolute certainty that they had a no knock warrant, but they didn't execute the no knock warrant. So the question is, why didn't they execute the no knock warrant?
Another inconsistency that I've been seeing on social media as well is the existence of like the body cam footage. So I think we spoke about this earlier, where different states in America have like their own laws for body cam footage. Like, do they have to disclose it? Do they not? And the police initially said that they didn't have any body cam footage at all, right? And I just did a quick Google search, and apparently
I think one of them does, right?
Yeah, so now one of them does, and apparently that has been leaked onto social media. The footage has been leaked to social media. I think
of the shooting?
Of the shooting, of the actual body cam footage from the night that it happened.
You see, from my understanding, I thought they didn't activate the body. They had a body cam, but they didn't activate it for the raid.
They say that for everything, though. Like with American police, they always come.
Well, I mean, doesn't that sound about right for corrupt cops not putting on body cams?
I don't know whether we're making a claim that they're corrupt cops. I think.
Well, I'm just saying.
I forgot to press the button. I forgot to press it. I didn't know you were supposed to press it.
I don't know how to use technology.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty big. I wasn't aware that there was body cam footage.
Yes, because I saw on Twitter.
It's not mandatory though, right? It's not mandatory in that state for body cam.
Okay.
Shouldn't it be mandatory just in case, especially when you're doing
it's bureaucracy, Summer. That's the problem, right? Like so the thing is, like for example, where Floyd was killed, right? They had body cams. I think body cams are obviously something that you have to do, right? But then when you look at somewhere like Kenosha, that particular department couldn't afford body cameras, so that's why they don't have body cameras, right? So that's the problem. Like some of it is like legislation, as in like there's not laws for it. Some of it is they don't have the money for it. Some of it is from a politic perspective, like, they haven't got the right kind of things or whatever, and you have to put it on sometimes, and sometimes you don't. I think in a perfect world we'd all want it to have everybody has like a GoPro. You have one on their face, one on the chest, one on their legs, right?
Didn't Ring just release a drone that follows you around the house?
Ring? No, I didn't know.
The company Ring. They make the front
doorbell.
The doorbell.
This is security.
Yeah. So they've just invented a drone that follows you around the house and basically keeps an eye on you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
maybe everyone carries one of those around with them as they walk down the street.
Oh, the little one, the indoor drone. Yeah,
the indoor drone.
Another point that I want to bring up as well. So the Attorney General, I think Daniel Cameron, he's the one who came out with the statement that Kenneth Walker, so Breonna Taylor's boyfriend at the time, shot first, right? And there's different versions of that story, but from the ballistics report right now, it's inconclusive because the 9mm rounds that were found in the apartment, they don't belong to his gun, but they belong to.
I don't. No. That's not correct.
They're saying it. All they can tell from that first initial ballistics report is that it was a 9mm. They can't deconstruct it to work out which gun it belongs to or whose gun it belongs to. So they can't confirm whether it belongs to Taylor's boyfriend or whether it belongs
the cop
to
or a
the
third
officer.
party. Could have been a third man. Could have been a third man out the window who shot that cop in the leg. I don't know, right?
That witness.
That witness came out, right? No, but I think that's what we were mentioning earlier about the ballistics report, right? Like they essentially were only able to determine, yes, there's a 9mm, and this is just from the initial ballistics report. So I don't think that
Yeah,
means that
it's
it's
not
the
conclusive.
final
Yeah.
the final
Uh,
ballistic report. And like I mentioned, there's
Yeah.
also the FBI.
FBI, which is I think the
Yeah.
most important one.
But the point I was trying to make, so the Attorney General was the one that came out with that point about the that Kenneth Walker shot first, right? This was before a ballistics report was even done, because the ballistics report was done only not too long ago, I think.
No, that the so that they did the ballistic. There was
Maybe
the
the
ballistic.
release of it was
They,
released
yeah,
recently.
they
Okay,
already
yeah,
they already
That's
had the
why.
ballistics report because they had the grand jury during September who were reviewing the case evidence
Okay.
in secret. So the reason they had to put a grand jury together, which is separate to a kind of a normal public
regular.
hearing you might have, is because to protect the identity of the actual jurors, because of the sensitivity of the case. So
Yeah.
because
Because a case like this usually would take like months, like
Yeah.
maybe years even before you actually take it towards a court, right? But
To the
given
court,
but given the I think the social situation, they obviously fast tracked it towards a grand jury, and that's the reason why we're getting the situation as it is.
yeah,
But yeah, like on that point, so I've been reading a lot on social media, and it's hard to trust like what's real and not. So like I take everything with a grain of salt. But a lot of people have come to a conclusion that like Daniel Cameron, I think that's his name. Yeah, the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron.
It sounds
is-
like some other name, doesn't it? Like
You mean-
Yeah.
like
You mean
Daniel
Wayne
Craig
Brady?
or something like that. I don't know.
I keep getting
what-
confused with David Cameron. I'm like,
David Cameron,
it's
yeah,
like,
maybe,
is
yeah,
that
yeah,
the-
yeah,
is that
yeah,
the
that's
former
it.
prime minister of the
That's probably
UK?
it. You got it in one go, man.
yeah. I
Yeah, what
was
about
trying
it?
not to get confused. So his wife at the moment, who he's married to, is actually the daughter.
Yeah. I had to fact check this. This isn't
you fact
actually
check this?
correct. Yeah, I've
That's
already
not
fact.
correct.
It's not.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's not correct. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there were rumors on the internet about how Dan had man. Now you got me saying what's his name? David Cameron. Daniel
Cameron. Daniel
It's
Cameron.
Wayne
Just
Brady,
call him,
man.
I
It's
just
Wayne
call him
Brady.
Wayne
AG,
Brady.
AG Cameron.
AG Cameron.
yeah,
I like
AG
Wayne
Cameron.
Brady though.
I like
You
Wayne
have to
Brady.
look.
He's
You
just
have
like
to
Wayne
look at
Brady.
this guy. He looks like Wayne Brady. Tack pointed it out, and it's like a 1-to-1, like more skinnier, taller Wayne Brady.
Pretty much.
But yeah, essentially, yeah, there were reports on the internet about how he was married to the niece of Mitch McConnell, who's a senator.
He's senior senator of Kentucky.
Well, but I
and
think is he the
the
Senate
Republican Party,
Is he
and
the Senate leader?
he's the Senate majority leader.
Yeah, it's the majority leader. And people were saying like, oh yeah, like he's like his wife is Mitch McConnell's like niece, and it's not true.
Okay. So how'd you debunk that?
So I looked online, and people have said that he has 3 daughters, and it's like no relation.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
And that's the thing, because people are obviously trying to say like, oh man, the stuff that I saw online that people were saying about Cameron, because they were like, oh well, yeah, if his wife was black, he would he would have cared more, and all this kind of stuff, man. It's disgusting, because it's not right that like people are going to try and attack him as like a person and as a family man, purely because of the result of something especially quite out of his control. Now, people are obviously looking at this case and saying, oh well, this is an example of police corruption. They haven't got justice for Breonna, because this is essentially the basis for all the well, at least a part of some of the protests that are ongoing in America at the moment, right? Like her death, George Floyd's
pretty quiet
death.
about it. They were overall. She was kind of like put on the back burner when it came to George Floyd.
Well, I feel like she got put on, like the case became more relevant after George Floyd.
That's what I saw. I didn't even hear about her until
it happened in March, and then George Floyd happened, like the George Floyd.
But didn't you guys say it was in May? I said it was in March.
No, you said in May.
It was in May.
We said in March.
Yeah.
Now, when the whole George Floyd thing happened, that's when it
it reignited the
and now she's kind
attention
of like,
to it.
The main
It became sort of like a meme, not in the sense of like like a joke, but a meme in terms of like it was just plugged everywhere, like all over social media. People like at some point, hashtags. People just make random stuff. Like it'll be a tweet that has nothing to do with Breonna Taylor, but it's like, oh, and we want justice for Breonna Taylor. Like, yeah, we understand you have good intentions, but like, there's a more appropriate way to do it. Not like attention grabbing, you know?
Well, I'd like to first point out that, yeah, a lot of people do associate memes with jokes, but memes are
Yeah.
actually ideas, right? Like
Yeah.
replicating ideas. So you are completely correct. It technically is used as a meme, just not
It
in the way
was,
that
yeah.
people, in the conventional way, because
Yeah.
I didn't even hear about all the stuff about Breonna Taylor until all the George Floyd situation happened,
Yeah.
right? Like I think there's obviously the case with Ahmaud Arbery, which happened, I think, like maybe
Ahmaud Arbery.
I think maybe the week.
Yeah,
or so
Ahmed
before.
Arbery had happened the year before. It's
No,
actually
no,
been
this
more
is-
than
No,
a
no,
year.
it was this
No,
year.
no, it was this year. Man, where
This
where
year.
you getting your
Bro,
facts? That's what I want to know. Were you
people
like
been
a time
saying it's
travel?
been happening from like last year.
You from
It just got
2021 or
buried.
Mate,
something? Like what's
2020
going
is
on?
not over yet, buddy.
It's
So-
just been a long year.
Not so quick.
Not
It's
so.
been a
Not
long
so.
year.
So
not fast enough, right?
I do want to bring up one last thing. So, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard this. So today, one of the members of the grand jury, so one of the grand jurors, in the Breonna Taylor case, has issued a motion to AG Cameron,
yeah.
to effectively saying that the motion says, and I've got a link to the motion in Google Drives, so saying that the public statements or public comments that Attorney General Cameron made contradict what was presented to the grand jury. So this motion was.
Yeah, sorry.
And just it doesn't go into specifics because they can't, it's a sealed grand jury, so the grand juror in the motion cannot release the specific evidence. But saying
what they have a problem, or what issues they had with his statement.
What issues they had with the statement. So all that's been released in the motion is that the public statements of AG Cameron contradict what was presented to the grand jury. And it essentially accuses Cameron of hiding behind the grand jury, like the secrecy requirements, while kind of misleading the public about the evidence that the grand jury actually saw. So I kind of think that this is not over. I think there's
definitely not.
Yeah.
I think there's probably more that we'll discover over the course of the next few months. But this is kind of just broke this morning. And it'll be interesting to see effectively the jurors asking the Attorney General to allow him or her to talk about what evidence was presented to them, even if it's anonymously, but being able to publicly talk about it.
I mean, I remember when, like, before the jury came out with a decision on what was the guy who got charged for wanton engagement.
Hankerson,
yeah. Before the verdict came out on him, the day before, I think state of Kentucky went into a state of emergency.
Yeah.
So that's when I knew, like, things are going to get serious now, especially with this case. I want to make a little side note. I just realized now that the person I was referring to that happened last year was Elijah McClain. I got mixed up between Ahmaud Arbery and Elijah McClain. That happened last year, but that gained traction.
What was the situation with him?
So he I think he bought something and he was walking home from buying whatever item it was, and I think he was a bit he was special. He was a special needs he required special needs, and he was trying to explain to the police, like he didn't have any drugs on him. He just went to a store to buy something, and they just killed him. So that happened September last year, and that gained traction recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not one I can say that I know.
Yeah, I can't say I'm.
Yeah, that's one that was shared. It was more online, like the Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd were like the main ones that were being pushed for. But Elijah McClain, his death happened last year, and it like resurfaced around the Black Lives Matter movements that's been happening this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the situation at the moment, like it would be interesting because I didn't know about is the stuff that happened with the grand juror, was that earlier today, or did this just happen like recently? Like, breaking news.
I read this at about 3 p.m. today.
Okay,
2 p.m.
Okay, so it's relatively new. Okay, yeah, interesting. Because I'd like to see. This is the thing. I'm open to seeing there being police corruption in a case like this, because there is a lot of like things that seem to kind of be like, oh, well, they had a no-knock warrant, and then they knocked
Yeah.
on the door, and they had like this thing.
Yeah.
I,
And
I'm
initially
like,
they said they had no body cam footage, and now it's like leaked on social media. So
yeah, you see, that's interesting too, because like I'm aware that so I think the body camera footage, because I saw it as well. I think I'm looking at the CNN article right now, and I think it's after the raid, not before
oh,
it.
okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work during a raid. It automatically
Yeah.
starts working
It's like,
after it.
I forgot to turn
Well,
it on.
well,
It
I
doesn't
think they
work
didn't.
while you're killing innocent
Maybe he was
people. It
just
only
trying to
works
stop
afterwards.
Well, that's the thing.
and he ended up
This is
starting it.
well, this is yeah. He needs to turn it off and turn it back on again, right?
Yeah.
It's restarting it.
Yeah, no, because this is what I was mentioning before about how people were saying that Hankerson was on the scene when he like shouldn't have been, and I think that's what that's what the body camera like kind of shows, because he was there on the scene, and people were like, oh well, this like you shouldn't have been here, or something. I don't know, something about that. That's the kind of part that the body camera footage was showing.
Yeah.
Sorry. What were you gonna say, Sam?
One last thing, and Adam, you and I have mentioned this or discussed this before, but I didn't mention it so far, so I thought I'd bring it up. But that one witness that had the interaction with the police and corroborated the police's events, basically that they knocked and that they announced themselves. That witness wasn't, according to Breonna Taylor's attorney, that witness wasn't interviewed until 3 days after.
So this is allegedly
Breonna
according
Taylor was
to
killed.
the lawyer, right? Now
Yeah.
I was trying to find this and I couldn't find it. So I'd love to see like if you have a link or something. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but more like
it's in the link that I sent to you.
yeah, in the video.
In
Yeah.
the video.
So that's the thing. I don't know what the police procedure is when it comes to interviewing witnesses. Like, do they do it like at the scene? Do they do like a formal interview? Like, is it different from like a formal interview at the police station? Like, I don't know like what like there's obviously like like look, I've watched my fair share of Law and Order,
CSI.
and CSI, right? They do kind of make it seem like they do like formal interviews like there and there with the witness like at the crime scene. I don't know whether when they actually do a proper interview, do they like take him down to the station? Is it because like this was just kind of treated as like because like Tak was saying, like this wasn't something that was like in the public zeitgeist until much later, so this was probably just taken as like another like drug raid shooting, and maybe that might be a reason for the delay. So I can't really say whether or not like the suspiciousness of it being 3 days later is suspicious, if that makes sense. Like, is it suspicious? Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and
makes
we
sense,
also
something
don't
really
know whether
good.
of the other 12 witnesses whether they were interviewed 3 days later either. So we don't know that.
See, my only problem with the 12 other witness thing is like you can't, because they didn't hear the knocking, or they didn't hear them announce themselves, right? So that's the problem, right? Like if a crime happens and 12 people didn't view it, that doesn't mean the crime doesn't happen. That's the problem when you're using
no, but
those kind of witnesses,
what it can mean though is if there's 13 people that all live around the same kind of apartment complex or in the proximity of Taylor's apartment, and 12 of them, depending on where they're located, didn't hear anything, and one did, it does raise some questions why
but
the
then
other
the boyfriend
12 didn't.
But then the boyfriend also said that he heard the knocking, right? So this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that, again, this is why this case like is very up in the air, because it's all dependent on like what evidence comes out, right? Like at the moment,
Figure out
I
what
have to,
actually happened.
yeah, like I have to go with what evidence that's presented. Like if it turns out there was like somebody walking by the street like ended up hearing just knocking or something like that, that could be something that comes in and throws this whole case in the air, right? But at the moment, like until they release more details, like it'd be interesting to see what the grand juror, what he or she says about the case, and whether there's some kind of evidence that they're like, hey, you didn't mention this, like why didn't you mention this, right?
Sabik said something really interesting in the chat. He said body
Saw
cams also suddenly work when people start
People start resisting. Yeah. Of course.
Good observation, Sabik.
And I think look, this is a bit of a wild one, but I've noticed especially when you go, I mean, look, if you're watching a documentary, or if you're watching a news report on this matter, you do realize the divide between the people and the ideologies, the people who are supportive of the I guess like the legal system and even the police itself. They're almost like unapologetic about the whole situation. It's almost like the police can do no wrong, and everything is done
They've got
according
Well,
to procedure.
I mean, there is
Even
a
if it,
culture within the police force, and this exists. It's not unique to America.
no, it's
It's
almost
maybe,
global. Yeah.
but that they protect themselves,
their
right?
own, yeah.
They protect their own.
Yeah.
And
It's like a
and
bro code for them.
yeah, there's
of sorts.
absolutely, and in many ways you can almost describe it as, and again, I don't want to generalize, and there are a lot of great cops, but there's that bro code that they want to protect their own, and they, as a result, they can act it results in corruption, and it results in possibly stretching evidence, and I'm not saying this has happened in this
Claims,
case.
no, but no, you're just saying that it can, because
It can.
100% has happened. Like, police corruption isn't something that
It's new.
It's not news.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
police corruption, incredible.
Who would have thought?
We come
Police
from
are
South-
corrupted.
We come from Southeast Asian countries. Police
Yeah,
corruption.
that's where they brought it up, right? You see, my problem is that this unfortunately is gonna set like a bit of a, I don't want to say precedent, but I think it's gonna be the result of a lot of the cases that are currently happening at the moment. Like, I haven't got a lot of positive prospects about the results of the shooting of Jacob Blake. Like, the more, for example, Jacob Blake, same thing with George Floyd, right? Like, for ages, people were saying that, oh, like, and this is just based off, I think the initial footage was recorded by someone, correct? The original
Yeah,
footage
it was,
of
it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a bystander.
Bystander,
yeah.
yeah.
And the whole time they were saying, oh, he wasn't resisting, he wasn't doing this and that, but they released the body cameras and he was resisting. And then prior to him, I think like he was saying that he couldn't breathe before he was put on the ground as well, and that's in the body camera footage as well. And things like that are essentially going to get the police off off, because essentially they're going to see it as, well, the police obviously ignored his pleas because he was making these kind of statements before.
Look, there could be two sides of that. There could be two sides.
No. But I'm saying, like, based on the evidence that they're presenting, and
but you can also, out of anxiety, an anxiety attack can prevent, like.
Well, he was.
I don't think
he was on
anxiety.
drugs.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think he was intoxicated. I don't know with what.
Well, the drug report came out, and I think he had like 11 milligrams of methamphetamines in his body.
Yeah,
which is,
so he was intoxicated at the time as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think even when you look at the initial coroner's report for him, like, they didn't find any like laceration in the neck and things like that. Like, the more things that kind of come out, the more I feel like people aren't going to be very happy about the results of things like what happened to George Floyd, and the same thing with Jacob Blake. Like,
the narrative changes.
I think the recent thing that happened with Jacob Blake was, I think the police officer who shot him was saying that one of the women was saying that, hey, he's got my kid in the car. And initially I remember, like, oh yeah, like, in the car apparently there was a kid in the car, but I just assumed that it was Jacob Blake's kid. Like, it could have been that woman's kid, and that's what the officer had to shoot him, because it's like, either he shoots the guy or he drives away, and the cops will be like, with the kid, and then people are gonna say, oh, why didn't you shoot him, or why didn't you try and stop him? Oh, if it was a white kid, he would have stopped the car, right? Like, this is the kind of like mindset that I'm hearing from people when it comes to these kind of cases, right? And I don't think people are going to be satisfied with the results of George Floyd or Jacob Blake either when things come to pass.
I think a lot of it comes from,
I think this is a
like,
result
miscommunication, like, especially with online, with news reports, because they've all taken their stance on it, right? So they're going to look for evidence that kind of support whatever kind of ideals they had going into, before making a report or making a tweet or posting it on social media. Like the whole I can't even remember his name, the AG.
Cameron.
Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady, yeah.
Before Wayne, like the Wayne Brady stuff.
Daniel Cameron,
yeah. Like
David Cameron.
On Twitter, like when I saw it, and then people like actually reporting this as fact, like it's easy for someone to be like, oh yeah, it's a thing. He's trying to get into the Kentucky Senate, so he's
Yeah,
trying to be
holy
on
shit!
Mitch
Like the moment you
McConnell's good books. So like it's
yeah,
easy
yeah.
to for someone to believe that.
When you told me that Mitch McConnell was this guy's like what is it, like father-in-law or something, it's like blew my
Uncle-in-law, I
mind. I was like,
guess.
whoa,
Yeah.
really? Like like
Yeah.
but that's the thing. That's the problem with I guess the information age, right? Like people
Yeah.
Fake
there's a lot
news.
of data.
Fake news,
There's a lot
yeah.
of data that's out there, and false narratives and stuff, like all the stuff like what is it, Breonna Taylor being shot in her sleep, like all that kind of
No,
stuff. There's all
that
this
was
stuff.
what I heard initially.
that's-
No,
That
no, no,
was
that's
but
what
that's
was
what
the
people
narrative
have.
that was
But that's
being that was
but that's what people were
circulated.
saying. That's
Yeah.
what people were saying. That's what all the activists were saying. Like, that's the narrative that was.
See, the problem
out
is that there's a serious problem when it comes to there's a serious issue when it comes to police brutality against the African American community. What happens is when sensationalism takes over and people start making up a story which is more compelling, kind of drives away, the actual focus, because now the perpetrators get away with things because you put forward a fake agenda or a misleading agenda, right?
misleading. Well, yeah, yeah.
And again, like there are some serious cases. Like I'm pretty sure you guys probably remember. I can't remember the person's name, but there was a girl who called the police for assistance because her mentally challenged brother was just getting out of
Yeah.
control, and she was unable to get him under control. And the police show up, and guess how they get him under control? By
No,
putting him 6 feet under.
yeah,
Yeah, they shot him.
So they're like, all right, he's under control forever.
Yeah, I think
now.
right now there's a general distrust of institutions and whether it's mainstream media, the establishment, or police, right?
Oh, crazy! It might be all three. Who knows?
Yeah,
That's a bit wild, man.
And as a result, I mean, it's always, I think people now are skeptical of anything that comes out from these different institutions, right? And
I think it's when the changing narrative from these official statements continuously changing over the time.
I think I think
Sure.
it's also a generational
Amounts,
thing.
yeah.
Like you look at Ronald Reagan's like war on drugs, where they used to like, well, I mean, it's all conspiracy, but they used to like plant drugs in people's car and then arrest, people.
I don't-
And
I mean, it's not a conspiracy. I mean, we
Yeah,
know
I don't.
that
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were
okay,
open.
well, maybe
Yeah,
yeah.
cops in the 80s did that.
It's been
and
done,
90s.
debunked, yeah.
Like, it's
And
No,
like
I don't think it. I don't think it's debunked. I think they literally have like FBI operations that, like the whole
Oh,
reason
wow.
why we know
Yeah.
the whole reason why we know things like, I think like Operation Mockingbird was the one which
Mockingbird, yeah.
which is the one which they spied on like terrorist organizations and terrorist-like
That
organizations.
to do with like Black Panther and that.
Yeah, correct. Black Panther, the Black
Yeah.
Liberation Army,
Uh-huh.
with the Weather Underground, like all those like organizations that they had either people in there or they were spying on them.
Yeah. So like you look at, the African American community have a serious distrust of the police, and it's a generational thing. Maybe before even Reagan's war on drugs. I'm just using that as an example because that's more well known. So it seeps into that culture that don't trust the police. So I think now that they have sort of grounds to maybe get some sort of justice from all these killings that have become public, and that they're going to try and push for it as hard as they can, even if it sometimes means using misleading evidence.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, how many people? Do you guys know how many people have died in Louisville this year? It's over 100,
Yeah.
right? And the vast majority of people who are getting killed in their communities are African American. But none of these cases, they don't protest against all the killings within their own communities. But the moment it becomes maybe like a white on black or a police on black, people obviously come out there and protest. Obviously, these are things that
Yeah.
are a problem, but they're like a
But
component.
aren't they? It's like apples and oranges, though, right? I mean,
Yeah, but
if you
but
look
that's
at
the
it
problem.
just purely
People-
from an empirical number perspective, you're right. But if you
Yeah.
look at the reason
Like the context
that
behind
yeah,
it.
the
Yeah, but the context,
is-
but look,
is
look at the context. Like right now, it doesn't seem to be like they've admitted that there was it was a botch raid, and that Breonna Taylor was killed.
Well, yeah, I mean they've compensated the Taylor estate with $12 million.
12
I
million,
believe.
yeah, of taxpayers' money, right? So it's not like they're saying that they denied that the police killed her, but rather that it was I forgot, I quoted
They took the $12
that it
million
wasn't-
from the police department's body cam budget.
Budget, yeah.
Yeah.
But essentially they're saying that it wasn't a like intentional homicide, right? Like that's essentially what they're saying. In the
Even
case.
even when you look at the George Floyd case, like I remember talking to a few people about it, and I think Derek Chauvin, he's been charged for, is it second degree murder?
I
It got
think
moved
it's
up to
I
second
think
degree.
it's second degree.
Yeah,
Second degree.
it
Yeah,
which
wasn't
is gonna
second
be-
degree before, and it got moved up.
Yeah,
And then
it wasn't. I think it was
Yeah.
third
Yeah.
degree. I think it was like manslaughter. Or...
it was third degree.
It was
It
the,
was
yeah, it
third
was third
degree, yeah.
degree.
And see,
then
that's
they
also
moved-
what that's what I'm worried about as well, because when
Yeah.
you charge someone with third degree murder, there is intent in that, right?
Yeah.
Like
No,
I think
third degree.
No,
not
no,
in
no.
not in third
Manslaughter.
degree.
So third degree murder.
no, second degree.
Second
Second
degree.
Second
No,
degree, there's intent.
secondary. There's
yeah,
intent.
third degree.
Yeah,
Third degree.
third
is-
degree, there's
so,
there's
so,
yeah,
so,
there's
so,
intent.
that's what I'm worried about, right? Because with manslaughter, with third degree murder, you don't have to prove. Well, the bar is obviously lower, right? Because again, it's a lesser crime. But the moment you're putting it up to second degree, you have to prove a lot more about whether the cops like intentionally did this, so and so. But I forget the I think first degree is premeditated, right? Like that's
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's premeditated. Yeah.
right.
So
Um,
That's like planned
first
out.
degree is
Yeah,
premeditated.
first
First
degree,
degree is
not second. First degree is premeditated, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so they have to prove that he intentionally, or unintentionally. Well, I forget. Look,
Yeah.
Yeah, you get what I'm
Because
trying to-
I
Yeah, so
was trying to
first
make
degree
I was trying to
requires
make
both
the point.
intent and
Yeah.
so intent
to
as
look
well as premeditation.
Premeditation.
Second
yeah.
degree doesn't require premeditation.
And
it just
and this
requires
is what I was
intent.
trying to explain to people with, because on social media there was a big push for let's try and get Derek Chauvin on first degree murder counts, right? I'm like, they'll do the opposite of what they're trying to get.
Yeah, mob
If it
justice.
because if it gets pushed onto a first degree murder, he's not going to get charged for that, because how do you prove that he thought in his mind, I'm going to kill this particular person today? Like, there's no way to prove that from
So
the way he
I'll
did.
give you an example. So second degree murder is more of a heat of the moment thing. I.e.,
Yeah.
I walk in on my wife with another man and then end up shooting them.
Yeah.
And that would be
second degree.
that
Yeah,
would be
like
second
it
degree.
happened in the spur of the moment. It wasn't
But where-
planned. It wasn't
Wh-
pre-planned.
Whereas an example of first degree would be I would leave the room and then get a gun and then come back and shoot the husband. That would be an example of like second degree murder escalating to first degree.
Second
Yeah.
degree is a crime of passion.
What I'm saying is I have marriage problems, guys. No. But yeah, like again, that's the thing. Like the bar for something like second degree murder, like they need to have whatever evidence there in order to prove that.
But,
right?
and the point I was trying to make with that comparison is like a lot of people are pushing for things without doing their research. Like, they want to get this person on this count, on that count. A lot of people are mad about the wanton endangerment count for Officer
Hankinson,
Hankinson. Yeah. And it's hard to put him on another charge, because like if it's wrong, then he'll just get away with it. There won't be any. There won't be any
and
justice
then double
served.
jeopardy. Then they can't be charged for
Yeah,
it.
and they can't be charged again.
So-
Yeah, if it's public, they can't be charged again for it.
Well, they can't be charged again for the same crime as double jeopardy, but for a
Well,
different crime you can.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if they kind of bring a charge and they don't have the evidence for it, then if they have evidence later and they're not prepared, then and that's the difference. Like when you kind of go on things more of like because like the public's opinion, or it's escalated because there's like a for political reasons or whatever. Like that's the danger when you have something that's in the public like mindset. Like for example, like another thing that you guys were mentioning about like all the protests and whatnot. Like I think Minneapolis, their city council were like, oh, we're gonna disband the police, we're going to defund the police, and we're putting in our own community-led service. Now council members are like, oh, I just meant it in spirit, mate. Even though we all voted against it, I just meant it in spirit. We're gonna, it's up to interpretation. What I mean, this is literally what they said. I wish I was lying, but this is literally what they're saying, and they're literally doing it for political reasons in order to try and quell like the obvious
The
unrest.
unrest, the arrests, the riots, all that, right? But look at these people just turn around and be like, oh, well, it turns out we do need police, right? Like they're not going to defund the police, they're not going to get the police because they're needed in societies to keep the peace. But hopefully more like as we find out more, we're going to find out the real situations behind all the cases that are currently in progress. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
All right. I think now is about the time we move on to the next topic. It's you want to do a quick intro of that one too, Adam?
Yeah, sure. So the New York Times recently released I think it's like 10,000 plus like words, huge, about Trump's
Huge
financial,
hands.
huge,
Huge
Trump's
hands.
financial records. Now the big thing is Trump is the first president to not release all his tax records. Usually it's something that
Since the tradition started, yeah.
Yeah, since the tradition started. And he's kind of used the the IRS I have an ongoing thing with the IRS. I'm not going to release my taxes until all that's sorted, which it's probably going to happen until the end of his presidency, if at all.
Or maybe,
right?
maybe
forever.
if at all,
maybe
right?
afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
the
I'm
IRS
yeah.
issue's been going on for several years.
It's just the IRS, mate. It's all the IRS, and that's the thing, right? Like
It doesn't have the IRS after them.
Well, yeah, I'm glad we don't, right? But
Yeah.
we've got our own. We got the what is our ATO? Yeah, we got the ATO.
Don't be too sure, eh?
No, not yet. Well, at least it's not. Well, I mean, people are scared of the IRS in America. They're more scared of the IRS police, But yeah, so that's kind of the big kind of controversy within kind of Trump's presidency, because people have been like, oh, well, where's Trump's taxes? We need, why aren't you showing it? What kind of dealings are you getting up to? And the big kind of thing that came out is from the New York Times article is that allegedly he's only paid $750 worth of federal income taxes between 2016 and 2017.
Yes. So the first year of his presidency, he only paid a total sum of $750 of taxes. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but of the last 15 years, 10 of them he's paid no tax.
Yes. Now this is according
allegedly.
to... Yeah, allegedly, right? And unfortunately, we do have to say allegedly, because this is the one big thing that I'm kind of disappointed about this article is there's no receipts. Unlike New York Times.
I actually don't think that's a bad idea yet. There's a so.
Okay. No, I think I understand what you mean. Yeah. October surprise.
Big brain.
Is it the October surprise time? Is that the reason why
it's the just before the election surprise.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's not a surprise that the New York
Times.
The New York Times released this article 3 days before the first presidential debate. So the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is tonight in the United States.
Oh, tonight. Wow.
So
I'm surprised. I thought they weren't going to do it. They're actually going to do it. I haven't been paying attention.
It's the date's set, mate. They're head to head.
I hope Biden goes to the right location, and
It's the New York Times have timed.
Turn up tomorrow.
So the New York Times have timed it, 3-4 days just before this first debate.
Who's hosting it?
It's one of the most impartial of all of the Fox News presenters.
Oh, okay.
So he's the moderator.
Oh, he's the moderator. No, but
Chris Wallace.
Chris
Wallace?
Oh, Chris Wallace.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Chris Wallace.
You see, I'd prefer it to be Tucker Carlson, because at least there'd be a couple of gaps here and there.
But Chris Wallace is actually a pretty decent moderator.
What are they doing it like networks are hosting the debate in how they did it for the 2016? So it's like so is it Fox News gets this?
This is Fox News, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I don't know. I wonder how much like News Corps like pay like to have like we want to host the first debate, and then MSNBC hosts the second one, and then I don't know, CNN hosts the last one. I don't know how it functions. Like, but it's got.
I can't wait to see the PragerU ad during the presidency.
Yeah, right.
They already had something on about like political correctness. They posted something about it's like a meme or something on Twitter. They already posted about political correctness. It's pretty funny.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
People are over PC, mate. We've moved on.
The first article that comes up when you look up Chris Wallace, it says first debate host and Fox anchor unloved by Trump. Because apparently it says he's more affiliated with the Democratic Party than the Republican.
No, Chris Wallace is a Republican. He's a registered Republican.
Yeah, but maybe
he just doesn't like Trump.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of I mean, there's plenty of bad blood between Although one of the big
Cindy, what's her name? McCain, Cindy McCain. So the wife of
John
John
McCain's,
McCain, not the daughter, but Cindy McCain, the wife of former VP. John McCain was was it? No, he wasn't VP.
No.
He's a
John
presidential
McCain was
candidate,
he was a
wasn't he?
presidential
Yeah.
candidate.
He was a presidential candidate, and so he passed away earlier. Was it last year?
Last year. Oh, it could have been the year before.
Could have been, yeah. Trump obviously, made
Not a big fan.
hoo-ha.
Yeah,
not a big fan of
Not a big fan.
John McCain, but Cindy McCain. John McCain was a Republican, a lifelong Republican. Cindy McCain, lifelong Republican, has now backed Joe Biden in the presidential
I heard about that.
run. So that's interesting. But I want to come back to the tax
tax stuff,
Trump tax leaks. And so New York Times have published basically a forensic summary of what's the content of the thousands of pages on his tax filing. Now, if you think about our tax returns, there might be 5 or 6 pages in it. Someone that owns lots of businesses across multiple continents and countries, every year their tax return is going to be several thousand pages, and then they've had to go through maybe 15 years of tax returns. So there's a lot. In all likelihood, they probably haven't gone through all of it. And what we likely see from New York Times is a drip feed of information over until November, which is when the elections are.
I do love a good October surprise.
Yeah,
I'm pretty. Wasn't the WikiLeaks releases during October? I'm pretty sure
they were. And
that was an October surprise.
There's a lot of claims, especially by people, a lot of the pro-Trump or kind of right-leaning commentators on social media, saying, well, isn't this isn't New York Times publishing Trump's tax return information? Isn't that a breach of privacy? Isn't that illegal? Didn't the WikiLeaks guy, what's his name?
Julian
Assange wasn't he effectively, doesn't he have a warrant for his arrest because of him also leaking classified information? So what's the difference between New York Times and WikiLeaks?
So here's the thing. I think it's essentially that according to the New York Times, they legally acquired this information. And the thing is, if you acquire information that's legal in a legal capacity, it doesn't make owning.
No. The distinction is the person, the leaker who gave them the information. What he did is illegal.
Exactly.
But New York Times reporting.
Correct. Yeah.
New York Times reporting on once they have access to the material.
Yeah.
New York Times reporting on what's the contents of that material is not illegal. So had Julian Assange not directly released the direct paper, so this is why I don't think New York Times can publish his tax returns, because there's thousands of pages, but B, because legally, if they published verbatim his tax returns, that would be illegal. But they can report on what's in it.
So here's the problem, though. WikiLeaks is the main problem with WikiLeaks is essentially it's a non-American, you could call it an NGO, but it's not like an NGO. But
a Russian front. What? Sorry.
What is so? It's not an American-based organization, right? So it's technically a foreign entity that is reporting and disseminating American, information or secret intel, right? And that's the reason why there's a warrant out for him. And I mean, there's been a warrant out for WikiLeaks since the Bush era, right?
Yeah.
Now with the stuff that's been coming out from the Trump, I think the main thing is exactly what you said, right? So the information that was available when a news agency has access to it, they're allowed to publish it because. And that's the problem. So there was an article that they released back in 2016 where they actually released his 1995 tax records, and in that's essentially what they used in order to show that I think he declared $960 million worth of loss for his for his estate, and so that year he didn't pay taxes, and they used this as a basis to say that he could have avoided paying any federal taxes for up to 18 years, right? Because you could hypothetically you could do it like, hey, I made 100 million this year, but then I also lost 100 million. Therefore, I don't again. There's probably a lot more accounting legalese. I've seen The Accountant. It's a crazy movie.
But I feel like
I like how you got.
He also says that he's very extremely underleveraged. Like he has very little debt compared to.
I mean, what we know is Trump doesn't say the truth, but also even factually that's wrong, because if you look at his debt, the value of his assets, that he, based on what the IRS reports a particular asset to be worth. So let's say one of his golf estates, and this is an actual example, one of his golf estates, let's say the IRS has registered that as 50 million. He's taken a loan, when he's taken a loan from Deutsche Bank, I'm going to call you out, Deutsche Bank, don't come after me.
After him, not us.
We love Deutsche Bank.
When he goes to Deutsche, I love Deutsche Bank too. Like every time I want to embezzle money,
you go straight to them,
straight to Deutsche. And so he when taking a loan from Deutsche Bank, he claims that asset, which is actually valued at 50 million, according to the IRS, he values it at 500 million, so that he can take out a larger loan. So he, in total, and again, I think New York Times reported on this 3 days ago in the same report, that he owes a total of close to $430 million in loans. So even if he's worth like $5 billion, which he's not, but even let's say for argument's sake he is, he's leveraged. He's leveraged quite highly.
Maybe he might need Kanye's help after all.
Maybe he needs that that government help after all. Well, exactly. Like you said, like his liquid cash isn't whatever billions of dollars, right? It's the same thing with Musk. It's the same thing with who's the guy who owns Amazon? Bezos. Same thing with
Bezos.
He's a trillionaire, world's first trillionaire or whatever, right? Like he doesn't have close to. I thought he was. I thought he was
No, he's on the way.
He's on the way. Oh, okay.
His company. Where's his company? What about Amazon? Where's Amazon in terms of the market value?
Amazon's close to 1.5 trillion, isn't it? No, so that's Apple. Apple's now close to 1.5 trillion. Amazon's probably about over $1 trillion.
Right.
Well, I'll try and do a fact check live. Live on air, mate. Well,
I think it's interesting. There was a tweet in 2012 that Donald Trump atted
Amazon is 1.5 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
Oh well. He called out Barack Obama on Twitter. He says he wants to raise our taxes, but he only pays 20.5% on a $790K salary. Do as I say and not as I do. Right. So he's throwing shots at.
Let me I've got a little clip of that, so let me share it with our audience. There we go. Barack Obama, who wants to raise, this is in 2012, so this is what is it, 4 years before Donald Trump's presidential bid, and this was during Obama's second term. Barack Obama, who wants to raise all our taxes. So get this, Barack Obama wants to raise taxes. Only pays 20.5% on a $790K salary, and he's basically saying, Obama's saying, do as I do, not do as I say, not as I do. And here is Trump in his first term, only paying $750 of tax.
So here's the problem with the and I mentioned it earlier. The one problem that I have with the 750 figure is if you actually read a little bit further down in the article, it even says that Trump made required payments to the IRS for income taxes for $1 million in 2016 and $4.2 million in 2017. But that virtually all the liability was washed away when he eventually filed. So it's only after so he technically has paid more than 750. It's just all the money that he's paid, I think it's 5.2 million between those 2 years. That's all currently being held until his next financial year where he puts in taxes. So he's technically paid more money than he's owed, that he has to pay.
So yes and no. So what happens is just the same way we pay income taxes on our salaries, they have to pay taxes as well, right? So the government holds those taxes just to say hold our taxes, and when we submit our annual tax returns, we get our tax returns back, right? Now, obviously, so that the government wants to tax us just the right amount. So some people may get returns, some people may have to pay extra tax. In his case, he was able to claim most of it as returns. So he's only ended up paying $750 in tax for that year, although he did have during the year paid the tax that was owed, but in his final return, all of that was reimbursed, bar the $750.
Back as a
and that's the thing. Like a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people online have to kind of learn the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion, right? Like, because people have been using this as like the basis.
But actually, tax avoidance itself is an illegal practice in the United States.
I don't think it is.
No, you can't actually use the word. This is why I was surprised when New York Times published the article. The headline was tax avoidance, and that's an illegal. You can't even use that term. Like if you have a department within an accounting firm called tax avoidance department. Well, they're not going to.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. They're not. Well, that's the claim, right? Like essentially, because I'm pretty sure tax evasion is a crime, right?
Tax avoidance is a crime. Tax minimization is not.
Yeah. Minimization is a different thing than avoidance, right? Like minimization is okay. Doing your
I think that's essentially what they
your losses, counting your losses against your earnings, right? And that's how
again I'm the science guy. I'm not the accounting guy. You guys got to help me. You got to help me out with you. I don't know how to do.
The small fish is not smart enough to, I guess, navigate through the tax refunds, right? Like, and that's another problem with anyone who's working on a salary. Can't really get around a lot of these tax claims. They have little to no ground in terms of how they want to navigate that.
Yeah, just one example is like you and I can't claim $70,000 on our hair expenses, right? Donald Trump's 2016 tax return, he claimed $70,000 for hair expenses.
No way.
I thought he was wearing a toupee all this time.
I didn't think it was real.
There you go.
But just to give you an example of like, if you own a business,
it is a ridiculous thing. But yeah, of course, with business, that's
and this is the thing. Like the big thing about this is, well, are they inferring? So my mistake. I thought tax avoidance wasn't a crime, right? So essentially, are they claiming that he's committed crimes then?
No.
With this report?
No.
So that's what.
No. All they're saying, all the New York Times is actually doing with this article is to say that, hey, didn't Trump has refused to release his tax returns, and is the only president since the tradition that started to refuse to release. So here is his tax returns. The claim that he makes that he's actually rich doesn't. If he's so wealthy, then why is he only paying $750 when the average American pays 10 times that amount in tax? So what they're trying to do here, and New York Times is not bipartisan. Sorry, not bipartisan here. Yeah. They're partisan, and so they obviously don't like Trump. And they're publishing this article to make the undeciding voters, right, to sway them to say that all these big things that Trump says about his wealth, it's lies. He hasn't released his tax returns because he only paid $750 in taxes, and he's managed to pay zero taxes in the 10 years.
Well, allegedly. Right?
Allegedly.
But that's the thing, right? I think it's important because here's the thing. They even said that like the main reason why they haven't released the documentation for his tax returns is because it may reveal the identity of the source, right? And to me, I think that's a cop-out as well, because they can redact. Like the New York Times isn't poor that they can't get somebody to...
I think that's the excuse that they've used, but I think between now and November... Yeah. We'll see a redacted version of that.
I do want to see that October surprise. If they release some juicy October surprise.
If it's false that in 2016 Donald Trump allegedly only paid $750 of tax if that's false and that was falsely reported by New York Times, to prove that it was false, and Donald Trump, all he has to do, he has to do is release one page, which is the final page of his tax return, that has the actual final amount of tax that he paid.
But this is like the other problem, right? Because again, the New York Times back in 2016, they also claimed that, like I mentioned, like with how he avoided paying any tax because he claimed a $960 million loss in his 1995 income tax, right? Now, it was
a tough year, 1995.
Yeah, I remembered it. I was only 3, I think. But
yeah, I remember
tough year for me.
Tough times.
Yeah, I remember it too.
Tough times. Mate, you weren't even born. But yeah, they use this as the basis to say that, oh well, Trump may have avoided paying taxes for up to 18 years, right? Which, to be fair, isn't like completely unbelievable given the fact that he's gone bankrupt twice, I'm pretty sure, right? So
4 times.
Four times, right?
Yeah, only 4 times.
But subsequently, right? Like one of the big things that kind of worked against the New York Times was, I don't know if you guys know who Rachel Maddow is. I know you might know, Simon. Like she's a pretty big like kind of what is it like?
She's a talk. I mean,
talk show host, political talk show host.
She has a talk show.
She has a talk show, yes. She does have a talk show. And one of the big things I remember at the time with all the tax stuff is, oh, well, she has Trump's taxes. They're going to expose him. And they ended up showing that, he earned $150 million in 2005 and paid $38 million in taxes, right? And for a while, this whole tax thing has kind of disappeared from the zeitgeist because they kind of self-imploded because they proved that, well, he has paid tax in his history. So I want to see receipts. I want to see how many years he got away with paying taxes. And then even then, I don't think it's gonna. Unfortunately, it's not gonna swing people. I don't think.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure of that. I think this. So I know that you've already called the elections as a Donald Trump victory.
You already did make it.
Whoa. If Biden doesn't do anything about the protests,
yeah,
it's going to go in his favor. But now Biden has taken a more stronger stance on the protests now.
I'm not calling the election just yet, but at the moment...
You're ready for the October surprise.
It's American politics is crazy, man. It's
my
literally... if you look at what happened in 2016...
I think it's gotten more crazy with 2016. That presidency, like... It was insane. Like, at least with Barack Obama's presidency, it
was uneventful.
We knew
he was going to win anyways.
Well, he represented hope. He was going to end war and not drop 10,000 bombs in the Middle East every year. He would never do that, right?
But it doesn't matter because he had Obamacare in the works apparently, and it took him 2 turns to just be like, we're going to do it in the last month of my term, but Donald Trump's going to scrap it.
Closing Guantanamo. That was for me it kind of pissed me off. I remember that was like one of the first things that he was like, "Oh, I'm going to close Guantanamo," and then he did it on his way out.
It turns out our hero was a failure. Like, I mean, what are we going to do?
He's a shill, mate.
So my question to you guys is, there's when it comes to Donald Trump, I feel like the Republican supporters, especially the middle class or the poor white community in America, they don't want to hear anything against Donald Trump, and they almost find some level of excuse to get around the whole, for example, when it came to tax evasion, when it came to him being, I guess...
I'm just going to call him a smart businessman.
Yeah, they have something to say about him. They don't even believe that... I've seen so many of these, like Q&As where people outright deny anything that's already been proven with actual evidence that he's been involved in certain things, he's been bankrupted. People just don't want to believe it at all. So I feel
it's also because people don't really understand these things.
Again, it's the distrust that people have with institutions in general,
and mainstream media,
particular mainstream media.
I mean, look, we just went through an example earlier about Breonna Taylor, but like I remember seeing like a bunch of stuff that that come out, and it's like, yes, this is something that's factually true about Trump, right? But then when people try and I remember this one thing, CNN were talking about how he went to Japan, right? And he dropped like all this like fish food like into like the koi pond, and people made it like, oh, Trump was overfeeding these fish, and how could he do that? But like they cut out the part where the Japanese president also did the same thing, and they just made it out like that he was like only he was doing it, right? So like this is the problem when it comes.
But then why is the Japanese prime minister or president just gave the fish food? And Donald Trump needs
Why
to
does
not
why
give
does Trump have to
Why is
give
it
them?
double?
Because they were. I think they were doing a photo op, right? Like, oh, look at us feeding koi fish. Like, I'm cultured, right?
at the
Like,
As
expense
an
of
owner of
these
an
fish's
aquarium,
death.
we know how dangerous it is to overfeed food. Like,
Trump
was clearly in the wrong there.
Clearly in the wrong, right? And this is the problem, right? Like people, I think, when you have political sides, people will obviously pick a side and in the information that will filter into their worldview, whether it's both true and incorrect, right? Like that doesn't change for whatever side people are going to be on, right?
I think it's Oh, sorry.
No. Yeah, I was done.
Oh, okay. I think it's important to note, and I remember one of our viewers, Alif, he asked us, it was a while ago actually, like at the peak of when this happened, the dismantling of the USPS, and like what effect would that have on the presidential election? Do you think it would have an effect?
Well, definitely. If they were actually dismantling it, there's no dismantling. I think people are trying to claim that he's purposely not funding the USPS.
Yeah.
That's a different thing, though.
It's almost like letting it die out.
Yeah, dismantling is destroing it, right?
Yeah.
It's like
completely disbanding.
Like he's just
defunding the USPS.
Yeah, the police. Yeah, exactly. No, but there were claims that he was purposely not funding the USPS ahead of the election in order to make it difficult to do mail-in voting. That was one of the claims. But obviously, like, there's a lot of stuff coming out.
I mean, that's why I think we've got to dedicate all of October to
an October surprise.
President. Yeah.
This election.
Yeah, I mean, we had the. Yeah, sorry, go.
I was going to say, look, US politics is so unpredictable.
I love it,
especially when you've got foreign actors that want to influence the elections in a particular way. So right now, I suspect China would want a Biden presidency and not a Trump one, but Russia would prefer a Trump presidency, and both Russia and China have very elaborate and sophisticated cyber cyber crime or,
wasn't there the emails?
Hacking.
Yeah, they had the emails last presidential election.
Yeah, literally 2 weeks before the polls, the whole DNC leaks thing kind of erupted. And it was James Comey who actually made the announcement that they were investigating Clinton deleting these emails.
Yeah.
And so anything can happen between now and November, especially with China obviously most likely wanting a Biden presidency. You never know what kind of what China might leak to a WikiLeaks type of organization.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, WikiLeaks is dead, which is unfortunate, because they haven't really been publishing anything ever since Assange got arrested. But yeah, and I think that he was supposed to have like a dead man's switch of some kind, right? Like a code that. Huh?
Well, I mean,
more like there was like he was supposed to have access to a code that was supposed to be released upon if he got arrested, but because he was arrested, he's unable to obviously disseminate that, and whoever has that, so now they just have like
poorly designed.
There has to be one person that knows it apart from him.
That's
Hillary Clinton, mate. That's who it is.
And she deleted it.
She deleted it.
Exactly. I know that we probably, maybe a lot of Americans right now think that, given what happened in 2016, that polls can't be trusted. How the 2016 polls indicated Clinton would win, that failed to materialize.
I think only one outlet correctly predicted or like came closest to predicting a Trump win, but also a majority, like a what's the voting system again? It's like a percentage win by Clinton. They predicted that as, I think it may be a Rasmussen's, like they might have been the guys who corrected. But everybody else obviously were like, oh no, this was like a Clinton win or or whatever, right? Yeah, that was 2016. Imagine what it's going to be this year. Just imagine.
I'm optimistic this year, and I'll tell you why. Again, I'm not calling the election yet.
No. Yeah,
the reason I'm optimistic is I think this time, again, based on what the polls, all of the good polls have indicated, including Rasmussen, is there's less undecided voters. So in 2016, there was a huge amount of undecided voters. Even literally the week before the election, there was a huge. So that results in possible large swings. So there's less likely to be these large swings in this election.
Oh, so you think it's going to be more like we're going to get like a
more accurate polling this time around?
Well,
and
for a very long time, a lot of the
you see my problem
didn't even vote, man. I'm saying like a lot of the communities in America didn't even bother voting because
that's the
they'd
thing
already
with
given the election that everyone assumed that Clinton was winning. So a lot of people, especially the Democrats, and were like, well, she's going to win. And they probably just didn't vote. So I think this time around,
I think the perfect example of that is the SNL skit that Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle did for the US election. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's like them with a whole bunch of friends watching like the numbers being counted, and majority of them are like white Americans, and it's just Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, and they're like, nah, Trump's gonna win it, and they're like, nah, he can't. Hillary Clinton won this. She won that. No way. And then like as soon as Trump won Ohio, that's when they're like starting to get worried, and they're like, oh shit, like he might actually win this.
I mean, to be a fly on the wall during the 2016 like presidency, like in like Clinton's campaign, like just to see like just the dramatic change in like people's prediction, and then going towards Trump. 'Cause nobody, I think, like even I was apprehensive of the notion of Trump winning. Like it's
it was a.
There's obviously like a chance, but it's like, well, I mean, this is what the polls said. This is what you can't trust what the people said. You can't trust what like online people say, right? Like you got to trust the polls. And
it all came down to the wall, mate.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The big problem I have with this year's election, and we've actually been seeing it quite a lot with the primary election, is with all the mail-in voting that's happening. It's leading to a longer time in counting. Oh, sorry. Is everything all right?
No, we were freezing out a little bit.
We were freezing?
Yeah, mine's fine now, but we were freezing out a little bit earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully, again,
looks good now.
We've got two segments of computer issues, but I was just saying, like the one thing that's been a problem this year with the Democratic primary elections was counting mail-in voting, right? So we're not going to get the results on the day that we're supposed to get them. It's going to take a longer time, and that's going to be my point of contention is people are going to question the outcome of the result if they. Oh, we lost.
We lost. Wow.
Oh no, we lost him.
Tech's gone.
Tech's gone. Well, I was just going to say it's going to take longer to count all the voting, and then because all mail-in voting, people are going to contest the voting. It's going to lead to them doing recounts, and we're going to get the results a lot later than we usually will get. And I think that's going to be where things are going to go.
And you know what? In all likelihood, and we know that Trump's already started to seed some of this idea of.
But the problem is, it's been happening during the Democrats' elections as well. Like, again, this is what I'm referring to is specifically the Democratic primary election, right? Like I think in New York they had to wait like an additional 6-7 weeks before they got like a final result, right? And that's just in New York for their kind of voting system. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be even more stuff happening later. Like I'd love to do a segment maybe on the show again, maybe during our American October surprise segments.
There's going to be plenty of surprises, I think, with this election.
Maybe we should have a dedicated segment in our show in the coming month. What do you guys think?
Oh, we definitely. We need to bring back.
We want to ask our audience actually. Yeah. I know our audience have been quiet today. But tell us if you'd like us to go through a special US election episode. Maybe.
Well, Well, I was saying like after we had Sammy on for our
Yeah.
the Kenosha stuff, and I forget the other thing we did, but I was like, I'd love to have Sammy on to get his perspective, given he has lived in America. He can be our American correspondent. We
Yes,
we
our-
only have,
our
we only
resident
have
inside
expert, right?
we only got
information.
experts on the show, right? We only have experts on the show.
Well,
I'll talk.
people
Look, I'll talk to his people. We'll figure something out.
People are quite hopeful. People are, of course, not very supportive of Trump's administration. Living in America, like some of my friends are absolutely not even like willing to entertain the idea of
idea of
Trump.
it,
No,
Yeah,
a second-
surprisingly,
his second term, yeah.
surprisingly,
Yeah.
a lot of maybe not a lot, but many Muslims voted for Trump in 2016, especially
That's
in
a very
Atlanta,
surprising.
in Georgia, and I think this time around, I think they've seen the last 4 years, and I think that they'll.
The comments he's made, very divisive comments and very
Yeah.
inaccurate comments as well about our community.
Mm.
And I think you can have your opinions, but I think as a politician, or I mean, not even just as a politician, as the leader of the country and technically
leader of the free world.
yeah, leader of the free world.
And like what a lot of people don't realize as well, and like a lot of people in Australia as well get criticized. Like, why do you care so much about U.S. politics? They don't understand how much of
It
US
American
politics
politics
actually-
affects us.
and not just us, but like the,
world.
rest of the world.
The world, yeah.
Not just
It's a
Australia.
reflection of
The
what's
American
gonna happen in the next
imperialism.
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching like the presidential like election race, like when they're counting like the votes and they say which state's like leading in what. I'm watching that like it's Sunday night soccer. Like,
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'm
stay up
watching
late
that
enough.
stuff, keeping my
Stay up till 2 or 3 a.m. this morning, and you get to watch the first presidential debate.
presidential. I might actually watch it. Who knows? Let's see.
Interesting. I'd love to see. I was under the impression that they weren't gonna do it. As in, like, it is
I
like
mean, he's been doing all the rallies, so why not the debate?
well, yeah, but that's the rallies, right? Like, it's definitely
It's
like
worse.
a bit
The
of
rallies
a.
are worse. 'Cause
So is
it's
it
more
is
of
it
a-
in person, or are they doing it
Yeah, it'll be in
over?
person.
Via Zoom.
So,
or
so that's the
something.
thing. People were saying like, oh well, why are they doing it in person? It's gonna.
I mean, they're going to be like
spread
very
coronavirus.
far
Yeah,
apart
I know,
from each other.
I know.
How-
But it's like it's
yeah.
one of those
7
things.
feet
They're
apart, mate. Don't worry about it.
Did you guys hear about like how a while ago they were like, oh, Joe Rogan was saying like, oh, I want to host a debate with
Yeah,
Donald Trump and
yeah.
Joe
Well,
Biden.
Donald Trump came
And
out
I
saying
would
the
have,
same thing.
I would have, yeah, and he said he'd do it, but
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Biden, the state obviously didn't. I would have loved that. That would have been hilarious. So
I don't
like,
think Joe
what do
Biden
you think about
remembered
chimpanzees?
that. He
Like,
asked
that-
him that.
do you,
I think that would have been a really good one.
it
because-
would
I-
that would have been that would have been the most watched thing like
Yeah.
Yeah,
ever.
definitely.
And
You already have a
That's why
celebrity.
it
I'm going
won't
to ask
happen.
for predictions. So presidential debate, first presidential debate tonight. Who do you think's going to win?
Look, I still think the first one's going to be Trump's.
given that it's like hosted by
I-
Fox, like maybe it might be
Yeah.
in Trump's corner.
But I don't.
But given
trust
that
in the
it's Chris
ability
Wallace,
of.
I didn't know who Chris Wallace was. Like,
Well, I don't believe.
Other
Joe
other
Biden's-
VPs, are the VPs included in this, or just the
no,
president?
just
No, no, no,
presidential
no,
debate.
just
VPs
presidential,
in
okay.
another 5 or 6 days, and then the second
Yeah.
presidential debate is in 2 weeks.
Because if the VPs were involved, like I already know
to sub
Kamala
them
Harris
out.
is gonna get Kamala Harris is gonna get backed into a corner and she's gonna stuff it up.
No, I reckon.
Really?
So
I think-
I
I
think
think-
Trump will win the first presidential debate, even though the New York Times leaked his tax returns, and I think Trump will still win because
Yeah.
Biden will.
Just
Biden's
lose the
not.
chain-
He won't know how
train
to
of
respond
thought.
to
That's
the
the
way.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll lose his train of thought.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, midway. So here's the thing. No, I
He'll forget
reckon-
he's in a debate.
Yeah, I reckon Kamala would. I can definitely see Kamala Harris doing well, like against Pence.
I think. She
Oh, yeah,
might
Kamala
actually- she
Harris
might
will
actually-
destroy
I
Pence.
don't see Pence as a very bright person.
Yeah, he's just a guy. He's just there. Like,
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
that's
'cause
what
I've seen-
VPs
I've-
do,
I've
right?
seen-
VPs are just.
I've seen
that's-
Kamala Harris get backed into a corner by AOC, and not saying that Pence and AOC are like pretty similar, but like if you can't defend yourself in a normal like,
yeah, I
it
mean,
wasn't
she,
even
I mean,
it
she
was
got,
just like a
I mean, I remember her getting absolutely
you have to
destroyed by
remember-
Tulsi Gabbard during the
Yeah.
primary. That basically single-handedly destroyed her campaign.
yeah.
Look.
Yeah, all those comments about her pointing out like, oh well, you talked about how you liked smoking marijuana in college, but you put all these like
Yeah.
African American like men in prison for drug
Yeah,
possession. Like
exact same thing. Yeah.
like she
Exactly. Yeah.
called him out on like the hypocrisy, and it single-handedly like destroyed public
Because
perception.
wasn't she a former police officer as well?
She's
No,
a
no, no. She was
no,
a attorney general.
attorney general.
Attorney General. Yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah,
right.
also
she's
judge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm saying. I mean, she's used to prosecutorial kind of conversations, so I think she'll be
Yeah.
fine in the debate.
Yeah,
She's taking the heat,
and
I
she'll
think,
be well
That's probably
prepared.
the reason why she was selected in the first place. Because let's be honest, man. Joe
Well, I
Biden-
mean, I that's another reason why I think that this election is unpredictable, is because Joe
well,
Biden.
he's gonna croak at some
Look,
stage. and
look,
get
Joe-
replaced by
Joe
Trump.
Biden's
Joe
going to
Biden-
remember something, and it's actually going to be important, and he'll win the debate.
Yeah, maybe.
he'll
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think like purely because it's on like
gotta
Fox.
start eating his almonds, man.
Yeah.
So he can
No,
remember
it's-
stuff.
Yeah, like purely because it's going to be on like Fox's like turf, and because they're typically like right wing, like that might give. It's like basketball,
slight
right? It's like
advantage,
basketball.
yeah.
You
Why
play
have they used
score, you
intermittent
just
fasting,
win.
man?
That's just how it works.
Home court advantage.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Even though it makes
Yeah.
like no difference. Like,
Well, the
that's-
other thing, Chris Wallace is not being asked to fact check during the
during the debate.
So
Yeah, so
basically,
Trump's
if
gonna
Trump
say all
says
kinds of
something,
shit.
he can basically get away with it. Like
Get away
is-
with
But
it.
what's the point of that? I mean, you can.
Well, I
comment
think
whatever
the
you
main
wanna
thing is
say.
in order to allow the debate to flow, rather than like, oh well,
Like
Trump said
stopping every
this
few
correct. All right,
minutes,
stop.
yeah.
Well, look, according to Snopes.com, it actually like it's gonna take, I don't know who's
It's
I
gonna
don't
take a
know,
while, but
PolitiFact,
I mean,
who's gonna fact check him? I don't know.
when you know that there's one person in that debate who's notorious for making up, claims.
To be fair, Biden's like no better. He literally said that like an African American man invented the light bulb not too long ago.
Look, Biden's pretty bad, but I don't think you can compare the number of lies
but-
that Trump
But
can
that's what I'm
produce
saying.
in
Like,
a minute.
Maybe you can make a.
If you're
I mean, look,
gonna-
that's a very obvious lie, but I'm talking about when.
well, not to Biden clearly. Like
Well,
this is what I'm
Biden is-
saying.
Biden's
This is what I'm saying. They're gonna if they
he's in a
spend
different world, man.
if they're going to spend time fact checking these two, it's going to take the debate's going to take forever.
Yeah.
I'd much rather see the subsequent New York Times article going through all the fact errors like from the debate from the night before, which is
But I think
obviously
the biggest problem with that is again, the public who is supporting Donald Trump doesn't believe in any of that, so that just goes out the window, and it's only confirming the suspicions of the Democrats. I mean,
I think
anyway.
I want to be a bit fair to Americans here, because I think we overestimate the number of cult-like followers of Trump, and I think he has many, but he doesn't have nearly as much as everyone claims he does, and I think there's a lot of people who voted for Trump
I think they're just
because
louder.
there was
They're
either
just
Trump
very
or
loud.
Clinton, right? And
Yeah.
this time there's a Obama surrogate, which is Joe Biden, right? And so
I mean,
Joe Biden likely will
He couldn't even remember his name, but okay.
yeah.
I
And
don't
I'm
know.
not even joking.
I think
that was
I
a
think,
thing.
Personally, I
What?
think Clinton was a far more stronger opponent for Trump.
But she was
than Biden.
disliked.
She was
Well,
more
yeah, she was also
more
just-
aggressive. She was more aggressive than Trump, because like from my understanding and like what I've
I
seen
think you
from
got to be aggressive when
Biden
you're married to
like
someone
lately,
Bill Clinton.
it's like it's very his policies are just, oh, I want to beat Trump. Like everything Trump says, I'm the opposite. Like his only policy is to beat Trump. He doesn't actually have any
And to be fair,
policies
that
where
might
it
be
makes
to be
you-
fair, that might be enough. That's enough. That's enough.
that might be
to
enough.
to
Yeah,
go to the polls.
There might be enough.
Well,
but
I mean,
like,
if you look at the polls, and again, I know that in 2016 the polls were,
Yeah.
didn't get it, but I don't think we can
Again,
just
it's the
say
data that we have.
one of the polls, in 2016 the polls failed, so therefore the whole polling science is just flawed. I'm skeptical about that. I think just a lot of undecided voters in 2016, less undecided voters this year. The swings aren't going to be as great, and so the polls are more likely to be accurate this time around.
And you got
the
a lot of
polls
people
actually
registering
have
a lot
in
less
all the
states.
in all the battleground states, in most of the battleground states.
Well, maybe explain what battleground are too.
So battleground states are the states that have the largest amount of those electoral college stuff, which is another thing we need to get in through another episode.
Definitely.
But I think that's also a key component on how Donald Trump won the election, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why
there's also the electoral college backing him. I'm like,
if you can get 50% on the polling on these battleground states, then there's a high chance of you winning the election. So he's already at 50% in most of the battleground states. This is Joe Biden. And again, anything could happen between now and November. Russia might leak something about Joe Biden or the DNC 2 weeks before the election. Who knows?
One thing you also have to remember about Joe Biden, again, he's just going to play... he's just an empty show. Doing the bidding for the Democratic Party. That's pretty much what's going to happen. So I don't think he's going to be as influential if he was to become the president as any of the previous presidents. I think it's going to be kind of like he'll do what the party tells him to do, and that's probably the reason.
I think it'll
my
be
prediction. My prediction is I think there's going to be medical records leak of Joe Biden. And it'll show
to prove that
his absolutely
narrative.
And it'll show that he's unfit to serve as president because he's got dementia or he's taking drugs and therefore can't make presidential decisions. So that's likely to be leaked.
Sam, I just want to clarify one thing. I wanted to know, maybe you can answer it for me. I thought battleground states are like specific states that can they don't necessarily that's swing. Like they're not like hard like red or they're not hard blue, right? They're not necessarily purple, but it's like usually in these particular states they can kind of go in one way or the other, and that is that what battleground states refer to?
Like, so they're known as swing states, but battleground states are states
like California
where they've got the majority of the electoral college votes. So
the voters.
So the number of voters of those electoral colleges. That's my understanding of battleground states. Fact check us.
I'll have to. We'll look it up.
And swing states are a different.
I think Simon's right.
Yeah. I'm not too sure because I was like, I was trying to think like, because in terms of like battleground states, right? Like I think Clinton, like one of the reasons like people said like Clinton didn't like win the electoral vote was because she didn't go and visit like several states that were kind of key swing states, but I'm not too sure whether you can be both a swing
you can
state
be both
and
a swing.
Can you be
you
both?
can. You can be both swing and battleground.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was Ohio in 2016.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently on dictionary.com, battleground state is also called the swing state.
Is it? Okay, one and the same, are they?
Okay, so maybe the other thing.
So I think it's
good old Google for you.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think
I kind of thought it was the case.
Because here's the thing. It mainly depends on the electoral votes because you can have the majority popular vote, but if you have more of the electoral votes,
the popular vote doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme.
If you won the states, I think that's what really swings it in your.
Because there are states like Texas, right? Texas is a red state. It's not going to change anytime soon.
For a long time.
California, blue state. Right, it's not going to change. And
New York is blue. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, New York is blue, and that's the thing. Like, if all the votes were dependent on the popular vote, right, there would never be a Republican president, because purely based on the sheer amount of people in the East Coast and West Coast, it would always become like a Democratic president based on like the current voting direction that people go towards, right? Because Clinton won on a popular vote. Clinton even won on the popular vote against Obama back during the primaries, right? So like she won the popular vote against Obama, but that doesn't matter in the end, right? Like because it's based on the electoral votes. That end up and also the DNC can pick whoever the hell they want, like in the end, right? Like that's what the leaked emails showed, and with the DNC, Bernie got the popular vote, but they're like, nope, we're going to put Clinton in. That's just the way cookie crumbles, right? Politics.
It's not about what the public wants. It's more about what the party wants to be, who they want to be the face of the party, and who's going to, I guess, like represent them better.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like Bernie, I think would have probably been a stronger candidate against Trump if he hadn't.
I agree.
Gone
I
up.
definitely agree.
I disagree.
Yeah, but he's a socialist, so I don't think he would have won purely on the basis of being a socialist.
Well,
not just that, but I feel like
he wouldn't get
wasn't
enough
aggressive
enough of the people
in-
in the center to support him. That's the
Yeah.
problem, and that's why
Because
Biden. Sorry, go ahead.
Because he does
Yeah.
attract that people who want that, I guess, like the universal healthcare system, and a lot of Americans actually don't really care much about that. They're okay with the way things are to a certain degree,
I
especially
don't
when
think that's true.
they don't want universal healthcare, man. Like a lot of people, there are of course like supporters of
I
it,
don't know. Like there are a lot of people
but
pushing
people
for
don't want.
Obamacare for a reason.
Yeah,
By,
but if you
by the
ba-
way,
Obama-
right
Obamacare
now,
is different, though.
Texas, which is
Yeah.
traditionally a red state,
Red state.
Trump
Is
is
blue?
ahead by 4 points at the moment.
Okay. I mean, I've also had, like, to be fair, Texas is kind of changing demographics
Yeah, it
as
is,
well,
big
like
time.
because there's a lot of people who are kind of fleeing California and moving to Texas, and so subsequently, like, they're kind of major cities like I'm trying to remember.
A lot, even
Like Dallas?
a
Yeah,
lot
like
of the,
Dallas. Like Dallas is blue. Like that
Yeah.
area is a blue district. I
City,
guess.
yeah,
I don't know.
Dallas is the
City,
blue
yeah.
district within a red state.
But no, but they're not the only ones. I'm pretty sure there are other.
Austin, Texas is
Austin,
probably
yeah, that's
catching
what- yeah,
up,
that's-
catching up
Yeah,
as well.
that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I was trying to think as well. Austin is like very much like a hub area. It's like, oh yeah, hey, we're gonna do
Pretty
business
much
here.
all
we're
those
gonna
any cosmopolitan city.
Because it's become very multicultural in the last few years.
Well, it's because people are, like I said, people are moving from California and they're moving to places like Texas,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Like,
in fact,
Joe
a lot of the
Rogan- Joe
startups
Rogan-
from San Fran, the tech startups, have started to move to Dallas and Austin.
Well, Joe Rogan, was he from San Fran?
Originally
Was he from Cal?
originally
Yeah,
from
that's-
California, not San Fran,
California.
but from
Oh, okay. Where was
LA,
the show?
I believe.
LA. Okay, yeah, because he moved to Texas, right? Because
Yeah, but he's moved for tax breaks.
well, but that's the thing. But that's part of the reason why people are leaving, because they're like, well, why am I gonna
Yeah.
live in
California has
California?
one of the highest state
Same thing
taxes in the United States.
Same thing with San Fran. I'm pretty sure they've got high taxes too. So like, yeah, it's like, well, I'm just going somewhere that ain't gonna tax us as much.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. I mean, San Fran is within California, so California state taxes apply
Oh,
to people
okay,
that
sorry,
live in
my
San
bad.
Francisco.
Same thing with Elon Musk, right? Like, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
that's why. Yeah.
he moved to. Everyone's moving to Texas, mate.
Yeah, and then they'll
Texas.
eventually
moved
leave
to
the
Texas
United
as
States and they'll move to Singapore or something like that, right?
Well,
For
hey,
tax
look, if the
purposes.
market, well, look, if that's what the market wants, you give the market what it wants, mate.
It's been a really fun conversation today, and we're approaching what is it? Close to the 2 hour mark, an hour and 47 minutes. So
2 hour mark, yeah.
I think we maybe some closing comments by Samad. How about some put you on the spot there, Samad? Some closing.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. No, I would say I think it's going to be a very interesting one. I still believe that Trump will most likely end up winning the elections again.
Oh, whoa. Someone's
Whoa,
made a
whoa.
prediction other than me. What is it?
Presidential
Whoa.
prediction.
Can we
You
stop
got two
making
now.
predictions?
Before our prediction show.
Again, I think the problem is again. Yes, you said that there's less undecided voters right now, but one thing that's going to make the big difference is how these debates really pan out to be and what kind
And that's
of
why I think it's too early.
it's too
Yeah,
early,
'cause they're-
but
yeah,
I
'cause
still feel even though you guys remember the last debates between Clinton and Trump, yeah, people were still making. I remember people were still making fun of Donald Trump, but he still ended up getting through it. And this time around,
I think he only won like one debate, and
Yeah.
that was like
Yeah.
that, and that was the debate where he told Clinton that he was going to put her in jail, like 'cause that was because of that one line.
That-
Right? That was like the only
lock
good
her
line
up,
from
and
that.
then and then
Yeah,
lock her up again,
yeah.
like the
But
big-
like the other two debates, like Clinton won those. I'm pretty
um,
sure.
But I think the difference is going to be that this time around, he's got a different team with him. Who's going to prepare him differently. Of course, he's a wild card, so he's going to have a lot to say, and he will say controversial things.
I feel like.
But by the way, I know I said closing
Biden's-
comments, but one last comment here. the
mate.
Trump's campaign manager in 2016, the guy basically that ran his social media, spent I'm not sure exactly, but several $1 million on Facebook alone, and ran a very effective online campaign. That campaign manager in the 2020 election campaign for Donald Trump has basically been demoted, and 3 days ago, I think.
Was he the guy who got arrested for?
He attempted to commit suicide. So the cops were called in, and so he's the deputy. He's now the deputy campaign manager was promoted to campaign manager, and the campaign manager, this guy, was demoted about several months ago because the polling numbers of Trump were horrible. So he got demoted, and he tried to kill himself a couple of days ago. So I don't know what that's about, but I thought it was relevant to what's happening with the Trump campaign.
Because I remember I saw the actual arrest. I didn't know because it's like they ended up talking to him.
His wife actually called up the cops and said, "My husband's trying to kill himself."
Yeah. And the next minute he comes outside, he's drinking a beer, and then like 5 SWATs just like like that FBI open up meme, like how several SWAT. It's exactly like that. That like 5 people just come out of nowhere and take him down like immediately, like outside. I was like, this SWAT are like ninja, man, like legit. But yeah, I think Trump is playing a more aggressive campaign this time around. Like I think they spent less money than the Clinton campaign in 2016, but this time around they're spending a lot more money to the point that I think like they paid for like one of the biggest like ad spots on YouTube as well. So maybe if we say like how like if you want like an advertisement or something, you just talk about it in the video. So if we just keep saying Trump, we might get that Donald Trump advertisement money. I'm just saying that we don't get ads on that video.
Not yet, anyways.
All right, so that is our show for this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of banter around Trump. There's some serious talk around what's going on with the Breonna Taylor grand jury, and now obviously there'll be more to hear over the next few months.
And we'll keep updating people once we hear more as well.
Also, we're on 51 subs, so thanks for subsubscribing like during the show.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do.
We appreciate you. We appreciate
and again, if you like the content that we do, like and subscribe. And
even if you don't like it, there's no harm. Just subscribe.
Yeah, just
subscribe and tell us why you don't like it.
What's a little bell icon going to do? Click on it.
And obviously, leave comments. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about next week. And we're also going to have the Friday show as per usual, Mind Under Matters at 8 p.m. So come join us. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff as per usual.
And if you haven't seen last week's Mind Under Matters, make sure you check it out because it was an awesome show.
It was lit.
It was lit.
Very engaging.
Yeah, we
learned a lot about ourselves.
Yeah. So I think,
all right, everyone, have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Catch you later, guys.
See you later.